Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to the fifth panel of the Sports Talks 2021. I'm Rui Almeida. Thank you very much for the invitation to be the moderator of a very friendly talk about management and football, a club as a company in the 21st century. We have three very special guests with successful careers and for sure with a lot to share with us in the next 60 minutes. So, Domingos Soares de Oliveira is the CEO of Benfica Group. He's in charge of the football department, youth development, marketing, sales, finance, administration, IT, infrastructure, human resources, planning and control, communications, and media. He was a member of the European Club Association, a board from 2017 to 2019 on the Financial Fair Play Strategic Panel. During his career, Soares de Oliveira has been invited to speak at events in every continent, sharing his experience and transforming Benfica over the course of more than a decade. Before joining Benfica in 2004, I guess, he was CEO of Capgemini, Spain and Portugal. His studies were mainly conducted in France at both the Université Paris 11 and INSEAD. He was also lived and worked in Spain and Brazil. Tiago Lopes, hello, thank you very much for coming as well. He's a partner and CEO of Casa, competing in the second professional league in Portugal. Spezia Calcio, competing in Serie A in Italy, and Sonderischi. I think it's Sonderischi is more or less?
It is.
I'll tell you a story about Sonderischi later on. In first division in Denmark, with a bachelor from FMH, a visiting student in sport management at University of Liverpool, and a degree in the business of entertainment, media and sports from Harvard Business School. Tiago had several experiences in sport management throughout his career. Started at Manchester United as a trainee and at 25 years old, took the position as partner and CEO at Manchester United Soccer School's operations in Portugal. In 2013, was named president at MLS Philadelphia Union B team, the Harrisburg City Islanders, competing in USL Championship, being one of the youngest at the age of 29 years old to run a professional football team in North America. Before joining Robert Platek and their football holding group, Tiago worked at Estoril Praia SAD, serving as their Chief Business Officer, CBO, for North America, managing business generation opportunities among their other global expansion plans. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And we also have Guilherme Müller. Hello, Guilherme. Welcome.
Hello.
With a bachelor's in law at Nova University and postgraduate studies in sports law at Universidade Lusófona and Universidade Nova. Guilherme started his professional career at Garrigues Law Firm, where he was from 2006 until 2011. From there, he worked at the Office of the Secretary of State of Sport and Youth as a law counselor, and finally as Chief of Staff. Before joining Estoril as a legal counselor in 2017, he was a consultant in the Portuguese Syndicate of Professional Players and an advisor at the Social Democratic Party Parliamentary Group. Since 2020, Guilherme Müller is the general manager and board member at Estoril SAD, managing the club that won the Portuguese football second division and won the under-23 national title. Congratulations. It was a great season so far.
Thank you very much, Rui.
So let's start our talk, and I will start with Domingos Soares de Oliveira. You joined Benfica 17 years ago?
17 years ago, next week.
2004. Can you compare the key points, the main differences between Benfica you found as a football company in 2004 and the Benfica Global Project now in 2021?
Well, it's quite hard to compare two totally different realities. I think that
That's why
Benfica in 2004 was, let's call it, a challenging project, okay? We were without no titles for the last 10 years. We didn't have any academy, any project based on a professional structure. Everything was done by those who were elected and could work after 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was really a very difficult project. We had, in fact, something positive, which was a stadium, but I would say an unpaid stadium. So we no money at all. I think the club was really on bankruptcy. It was a mess. Today, I think that we have a group of maybe more than 10 different companies. We have a stadium. We have most probably the best academy in the world, or one of the best academies in the world. We have a youth football department who produces young players, very talented ones. In fact, in the Champions League final this year, we will have at least 3 or 4 players that were nurtured inside Benfica. We have a media group. We have an international expansion strategy. Tiago was part of it until some months ago. So it's a kind of multinational company, although the passion in 2004, it's still the same in 2021. We work to succeed on the pitch. It was the project in 2004, it's the same now.
The passion is the same. Are the results the same? Is there a direct connection between the structural changes you've implemented since 2004 until 2021 and the sports results?
Well, yes, because in fact, in order to succeed in the pitch, especially when you're playing at the highest level, you need to have talent and you need to have the ability to retain talent. This is crucial. And the fact that we came from a situation where our total revenues were close to 45 million euros to more than 300 million euros in the last season or 2 seasons ago, allow us to have better players. And once you have better players, you have more chances to succeed. There's not a direct link, but it's almost obvious that putting money on the table allow you to have better chances to succeed.
Tiago, your career is outstanding. It's amazing and exciting as well, I guess. You've been through very, very different challenges. You were in Man United, USL, Benfica, and now Casa. What is the secret to be succeeded in such different challenges like these ones?
Well, I think it's been, first of all, let me just say how pleased I am and privileged I am to be with you today. Thank you for the invitation. You know, sitting here next side to Domingos is really a privilege after, you know, spending some time in Benfica. I think undoubtedly he is one of the greatest managers, business managers in Portugal and probably in Europe. So for me, I've learned a lot with him. I've learned a lot at Benfica. And I will answer to your question, but I just wanted to say how pleased I am to be here in front of you. I wanted to congratulate you as well, Guilherme. I think it has been a fantastic season for you, not only with Estoril Praia, but everything you've been doing on the youth level, on the U23s. And I think that's really a process. You know, people are congratulating you for the amazing season you've had, but how many years in the works you know, you put in and the sacrifices you've put in to accomplish what you have accomplished this season. So to answer your question directly, for me, it's been really an honor. You know, I was very lucky at different times in my career, and I was very grateful for the opportunities I was given. Some of that is because of my personality as well. I challenge myself every single day. What can I do best? What can I do? You know, what more can I do? And talking with people like Domingos and people in this industry every day, every month, every year, and challenge myself really in every dimension. I had the privilege of working with Carlos Queiroz. He was really a mentor to me. He gave me his mentorship when he invited me over to Manchester United, and I was there seeing it all. You know, in a beautiful time where Man United accomplished a lot, and I was there. You know, I was seeing all the processes, all the details. I was training myself, and then one day I got a call, and it was Major League Soccer. One of the founders at Major League Soccer, he called me and asked me and challenged me again to run a project in the United States. I never thought myself I would be traveling the other side of the Atlantic, but I did, and I started this venture with him. His name is Nick Stakevich, with whom we also work at times. And we started the whole youth development, I would say semi-professional and then professional league, the USL, because all the B teams at Major League Soccer started back then. This was in 2012. So for me to rolling the sleeves and putting myself to work with him and develop one of the greatest second leagues in the world today, for me was a pleasure. So I think it turns to be a lot of tenacity to execute what I've executed, and really I think it all sums to relationships, really, network, and being very grateful for every opportunity you are given.
And for sure, always putting some extra pressure.
Yeah, listen, we are in the industry that is very, very much different from different sectors even in the entertainment business. If you would ask me, would I choose to do something different? I'd probably say no. Because I love it. I love the pressure. Every week is a new week. Every day is a new day. What if I lose? What if I win? How I adapt? What if the fans are not enjoying themselves? What is a constant challenge that you put yourself to, and it requires a lot of flexibility and of a lot of even entrepreneurship to develop the changes that you want to implement in every single moment.
But by the way, by speaking of extra pressures, I think you told something 5 months ago. The first step was to create in Casa a professional level of management. You've done it already?
Well, if you look back, this 10-month venture we've started with Rob and the 3 other partners, it's been a beauty. It's been a very successful, I would say, until today, journey so far. We have acquired a team in Denmark, St. which I know you have a story there, so I'm willing to know that. But we've acquired Spezia in Serie A, and Spezia we have acquired in 3 months ago. St. 6 months ago. And Casa around the same time, 8 months ago. So for us, it's been a very tough process because with the pandemic, it's not easy for me to travel to Italy, to Denmark, and start sharing the resources in between the clubs we own today. But talking precisely about Casa when we put the key in the project, we knew that Casa had an unbelievable story. It's a great club, one of the founders of football, one of the founders of this social movement around football. And we knew of that story, and we needed to translate that story into a professional way of working. So I think, to answer your question, after 8 months of operation, having a team that is today that guaranteed the stay in the second division, having 10 days to build a roster in September when we hire 25 players in the heartbeat. For me, I think so far it's been a successful journey.
About successful stories, Guilherme, what a year. Congrats to Estoril. I'm sorry about your leg. I think it was in the first second after the final whistle, correct?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
How was it?
Well, thank you for the question, Rui. Well, it's been a tremendous year, for sure. First of all, let me just thank everyone for the invitation. It's a dear pleasure for me to be here, especially because I am a former Nova student, law school, but I consider myself a little bit of a Nova guy, and so it's a pleasure to be here. It's been a tremendous year, and it's ended the same way as it went throughout the year.
It's another way
with a
to
bang.
celebrate.
Yes.
Very weird one. But
yes, unfortunately, it's true. At the end of the game between Académica and Roca, the game that gave us the promotion to the first league, well, I had bad luck with my knee, and so yeah, it was a way to end the year. Yeah.
You joined Estoril 4 years ago, I guess. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so since then, the club has become already more professional in the organizational structure, in the management itself.
Yes, I would say that it's always a work in progress, especially for clubs that have different limitations than clubs as Benfica, for example, that are national and have the opportunity to become also international. For us, we know that we are locally based, and that there are some limitations that we won't be able to surpass. And so that doesn't mean that we don't try to be more professional. We do, and I think in these last 4 years it's been a tremendous change. When I joined Estoril 4 years ago, I joined as a lawyer, and we didn't have a legal department. We outsourced this function, and as I'm sure that you know, football is one of the most regulated areas, and so not having someone with legal training inside, I would say it was difficult. It was a challenge for them or for us, and so I think it was the beginning of a change. It became clear to everyone that we needed to do a little bit more, and I think that in these last 4 years it's been a huge change. Hearing Domingos speak about Benfica, of course, it's naturally a different scenario. It's a different reality. But I think that considering ours and considering the resources that we have, I think we've been able to create a very professional environment where areas are completely defined, autonomized, with people only working for that area and not what you see in your typical let's say second league, first league, those yo-yo clubs that I don't consider Estoril to be one, but that you see in some of them where the same person does 3, 4, 5 areas. I think that what we were able to do, and I'm really proud of this, is we consider ourselves to be a first division club and not a second division club. And after 6 years of first division, when we got relegated, I think that there was a decision that was costly, but I think it was an important decision. That was, let's try to keep until the end. Let's try to keep the best that we can to be a first division club that is currently in the second division. But let's try to keep it for as long as we can, and hopefully it will revert in 1, 2. Let's call it
we'll
2.5.
Talk about it later. There's a specific detail. You went through an investor change already. How can we deal with that in a management perspective, staying on course without loss of competitiveness or something like that?
Yes, well, actually, it's been, I would say, 1.5 change, because when I joined Estoril was owned by a Brazilian company called Traffic. It was a company that was very, let's say, that had business in player agency, and so although separated, let's say the idea behind the model, the management model, was very focused on players. Of course, we are working in football clubs, and so of course players are key. But I think that it's good, and we've tried to do that in several areas, to look at the club as a club and not only as 11 players running behind the ball. And that was a little bit what happened at the time. I think that it was an important change and a challenging one when we changed the investors and the idea of the current investors, which kind of changed a little bit also in the meantime. But it was a very profound change, because the model was completely different. It is now an idea to grow the club as a whole and not just to look at what's happening inside the field. And so it's trying to answer the question directly. It's hard, and it requires a lot of adaptability. I think that what we've been able to do throughout this time is to make sure that the investors respect the identity of the club and understand that because they're foreigners, in the first time it was Brazilian investors, and now American/European investors, and make sure that when they came in, they understood that Estoril already existed, Estoril had an identity, and let's try to adapt to those ideas, but keeping in the same identity that we had.
Thank you very much about that. An identity, because it's all about brands. Domingos, let's talk about brands. Benfica is obviously one of the biggest Portuguese brands, not only in sports, not only in football. How can we compete in Portugal with the big sharks in Europe? Is it possible to do almost the same in terms of sports results without the same resources?
I think that from time to time you have an opportunity. when the stars are all aligned and you take the opportunity and you can succeed.
It is not a miracle?
Well, it's almost a miracle, but I think that if you do things properly from time to time, you have a chance. I think that Ajax story, I think that we have some clubs who are not the global brands. I think global brands, maybe the 12 that prepare the Super League are global brands. Eventually, you can add, of course, Bayern Munich, PSG, but those are, let's say, the 15 global brands. And then you have, I don't like to call it the second division, but let's say that brands that have a very good recognition in the industry, and from time to time they can do something. Porto did, Benfica did something in the past. We played in the last 10 years, one quarterfinal in Champions League. We played twice the Europa League final. Ajax played a semi-final. Porto succeeded also playing the Champions League. So from time to time you have an opportunity. Now, considering what Guilherme just said, I think that to be a very important club in the football industry at European level, let's say about the European level, you don't need to give away your identity. For example, clubs like Real Madrid, Barca, Benfica, Porto, and including, of course, Sporting, they are perceived by the members as something that belongs to the members. If tomorrow there's an opportunity to sell the club for our fans, this would just be unacceptable. I'm talking for the Benfica fans, but I'm sure that the others would think more or less the same. And the reaction you saw from the fans in UK, for example, when the Super League was launched, shows that you can never forget the power of the fans and the importance of the fans. In fact, we can be a listed company, but by the end of the day, we always have to think that the fans are the ones who have done the Benfica as a big club. So my view is, yes, you can do a little bit better than the others. If you consider that, for example, Benfica, in terms of revenues, we have been always between the top 20 and top 30 clubs. And if you consider the performance we have in the field, we are much better than that. So it's not just about putting money on the table. You have to have a different structure. You have to have a different mentality. A little bit like Tiago mentioned, you have to be really focused on what you have to deliver. And people, I met a lot of people at European level. You have a lot of Americans, and for the Americans, it's quite fun to invest in football. But by the end of the day, you want a return on your investment. And for our fans, for our stakeholders, it's much more important the return you give on the pitch rather than off the pitch.
You mentioned Super League. The Benfica position, I guess, was liminarly against since the beginning. Why? Because you weren't invited at the beginning to the group?
No.
Or because you weren't focused on that direction?
Well, the Super League project is something that is under discussion for more than 20 years.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not something new. The first time I spoke about the Super League together with UEFA and Bayern Munich is when we played a match against Bayern Munich in this quarterfinal. This was, I think, in 2017. And the Super League was being discussed inside ECA and outside ECA, also with UEFA. Okay, so it was an open discussion. It was not something that was prepared behind the scene and 12 eliminated guys appeared with a solution that didn't consider the rest of football. So, yes, we had discussions around the Super League maybe 4, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, together with UEFA, together in the presence. I was with the Portuguese Federation president some days ago, and I told him, you remember we had this lunch in Lisbon, and he said, yes, we were having discussions on an open way. I'm totally against, and Benfica is totally against, this kind of Super League that was prepared without the rest of the industry knowing what was happening. But I consider that if you take in consideration the investors' objectives, and especially considering that most of them are Americans, you have to understand what they did. Okay, it's not just saying it was not fair. It's a shame. No, you have to understand where their mindset is. For them, what is important is to consider their business. Okay, And I think that from time to time, clubs in Portugal should also think a little bit more out of the box and say, we have to compete on the pitch, but off the pitch, we have to stay together and to defend our industry.
That's a very good question and a very good answer. Tiago, let's talk about multi-club ownership. You're connected to Spezia Calcio, to Sandrischi, and to Casa. How can we connect such different realities as the Italian Serie A, the first division in Denmark, and the second professional league in Portugal, as you do?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, has been a tough journey so far because of the pandemic, obviously. It makes everything more distant, and it's not easy to pull up resources and really train the people on the ground in each of those markets. But the way we knew what we were facing, so we decided to go in and invest in those countries. There are more details that justify our investments in those markets. But to answer your question, it's been a challenge, but we knew of that, and the way we've been adapting has been when you talk about multiple clubs, they are multiple clubs but they are owned by kind of a single entity, and that makes our lives much easier in the execution standpoint. I can give you a simple example. Yesterday I was interviewing our next CEO for the Sandjursk team, which means that everything is really well connected. We know what the resources that they are needed in each of those markets. We are still in the introduction step in those markets. We are still taking the photographs in those markets. We know what we need to do in order to prepare for next season. And I can tell you that by having a single entity, discussing, evaluating, making decisions, we will see naturally a lot of movement in between the teams. And that movement reflects in player development opportunities, it reflects into staff opportunities, it reflects to knowledge share, applying resources that can be useful not only in Spezia, but those best practices can be used in Lisbon and vice versa. So there is a lot of connectivity in between all of the teams that are on the ground in these markets.
But that leads to my next question. So we know it's possible, it's an FPV, it's a first-person view, so you told us it's possible to be in 3 different clubs at the same time. Can we talk about the synergy between Sandrischi, Spezia Calcio, and Casa?
The relationship has been, as I've mentioned, very much enlightening because there is a lot of knowledge that we are taking away from those markets. Even though we are 3 months in Spezia, we are 6 months in Sandjursk, but there's a lot of things that, for instance, I've been seeing that we are doing in Lisbon that immediately we are translating to Denmark. And a lot of things that we are doing in Denmark that we are translating to Spezia. A lot of things we are doing in Spezia, we are translating here. So I can give you a very concrete example. For instance, our pre-season, the way we want to structure for this coming season is by bringing the 3 teams over to Algarve and having a pre-season here. And we are bringing everyone. We are bringing players, staff. And the reason we are doing is because we want people to understand that this is one family, and this is one coach that is in Spezia, but the players that I'm hiring in Lisbon, some of them are players that can well be selected to Italiano in Spezia. So I think it seems a little bit complex, but in reality, it is not. As long as the objectives are clear, people know what they're doing, the KPIs are set, and there is a good level of of connectivity, entrepreneurship, and really being very humble, dealing with everyone. One of the things we have learned, and I think working in the U.S. and having this English language is that you don't have você, you have you, and I think by treating everyone equal gives us a wider perspective that there's really no egos, and it's easier to make things happen in each of those markets.
There's another Portuguese in São da Risque history. Back in 2005, when José Moraes was coach, he was our coach in Santa Clara. I was director of communications in Santa Clara by that time, and he left us to São da Risque. So I think it's the first Portuguese I have in memory to be connected to São da Risque.
And it's a beautiful region. It's 2 hours away from Copenhagen. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful region. And those are the opportunities. I'm going to give you a very simple example this season. Of course, the objective we have in Spezia is to maintain the team in Serie A. The objective we have in Casa Pia is setting this professional structure so we are able to move this into the first division. But in Sondirsk, the challenge there is to move this team into European qualifications. And this year we were not expecting. We play the cup final in 2 days. Actually, tomorrow, I'm sorry. So if we win, we are in the European League, Europa League. I mean, the Conference League right now. So we were not expecting that, Those are the opportunities that land in your table without even planning.
Guilherme, last time we met, we were in a TV studio, I guess, a few months ago. By that time, Estoril had already a very specific sense of connection with the community. How that worked so far?
Let me just, before answering the question, just try to add something to what Tiago said, because we didn't speak about this, but Estoril is also a part of a group with multi-clubs. It's been, these investors have been in Estoril for 1.5 years now. It's not all fun and games. It's been a very good experience, and I think it's exactly what Tiago said. It's knowledge, it's staff, it's players, it's lots of things. I think there are some cultural challenges. In our case, maybe a little bit easier because our club, the club that's a part of our group, is in Spain, so it's a little bit easier. But there are challenges, and I think it's great. I think it's a huge. There are huge possibilities there, but it's something that sometimes we struggle. But it's really interesting. But yes, sorry, Rui. I was just
your connection with the community. It's very interesting.
Well, it kind of relates what we were discussing previously. So it's true that despite having foreign owners, we've tried at Estoril to make sure that the club's identity remains whole. And when I joined Estoril, traffic was there, and considering the importance that was given to players, and maybe somewhat importance that was given a little bit less to the development of the club, I think kind of pushed people a little bit away from the club, and Estoril became, in my opinion, a little bit of an island there. It was in Estoril, but it was not actually the people's feelings was not. It was really a part of Estoril, and so I think that was probably something that the main change that we tried to bring to Estoril. We didn't have relations with the main institutions in the. In Cascais, so it's in Cascais, in the Cascais area. We didn't have the good relations with the main stakeholders, with the main institutions, even with the city hall. And it's something that we were discussing. It's not a national brand. It will not be one, probably in the next years. And so we have to cherish the local space that we have. Cascais, it's not a very small area. On the contrary, and it's a good one. It has lots of people. I think we have a problem, a geographical problem, because we are a little bit too close to Lisbon, and so there is...
Is that a problem?
It is.
In every problem, we have an opportunity.
Of course, and that's exactly what I was going to say next. Is if I don't have a specific number, but if I have to think about that, probably I would say between 90 and 95% of the people that live in Cascais are either Benfica or Sporting fans, and that eventually would be a problem for me. I think we tried to look at it as an opportunity and say, well, if you're not a Estoril fan because you were not born like that, let's try to do something to make you cherish your local club and be sure that you can be a Benfica or a Sporting supporter, but you'll also be a Estoril supporter. It takes time, and especially it takes time because I think it's something that it's really easy to give away, as maybe it was done at some point. And trying to make that reconnection, it takes time, and it takes. I think these kinds of in the very nice interview that we had, I think those are examples of things that we are trying to do. We're trying to not only it's a football club. In case of Estoril, it has several different sports. It has different areas of intervention, and it for sure it needs to have especially in the times that we're living, it needs to have a social responsibility and environmental responsibility. These types of interventions that hopefully will bring people closer.
But that leads me to my next question, and we already talked about that with Tiago, the multi-club ownership. How is it possible to integrate supporters in the new reality, because it is a new reality, so that they do not feel neglected?
Well, I would say that it's a bit what we discussed. It's all about identity. It's try to make sure that regardless of if it's a Brazilian company, an American company, whatever company that comes in, make sure that the idea is good, the idea makes sense. And in our case, we were lucky enough to have investors that believed in Estoril project, and it was not only just about return on investment. It also, or it is, at the end of the line it is, but make sure that in order to get there, we would always have to cherish our supporters, knowing that their idea is not the return on investment, is the sporting success. And so it's a tough balance, but we were, at least until now, we have been lucky to, well, in this case also, to have that sporting success, but being able, when not so much, to have the investment in order to reach that.
Some of Estoril supporters are also Benfica supporters. When Benfica supporters arrived to Estádio da Luz, now that Benfica is a pioneer in 5G, and let's talk a bit about innovation, what is the added value they can expect for a match day experience?
Well, 5G is all about speed. It starts with speed. I think that a user in the stadium can expect an increase between 10 and 100 times higher compared to what they have today. So with speed, it comes a lot of service. I think that the user experience in the future, in the coming future, because it's now, we have already 5G in a specific area of the stadium, but the user experience will be totally different. You can expect to see the match or specific parts of the match almost in real time, and you choose the camera. It can be the camera that is close to the bench, it can be a camera that is in the top of the stadium, etc. It's about service. You can order your meal or your drink when you're sitting here, and you should expect that it will not be delivered through 5G, but you can expect speed in terms of delivery.
At least before the end of the game.
Well, because sometimes it doesn't happen. Okay, but yes, I think it's a good investment. We are really happy with the partnership we have today in terms of investment. I think that other clubs are doing the same. The experience, again, the user experience will be totally different.
Benfica Play, did it work as you expected so far?
Yes and no. I think that the experience we have today in terms of OTT are very interesting in terms of the ability the clubs, and in this case Benfica, we had in order to go behind the scene, okay? So we deliver today, and this was done with B-Play, with Benfica Play, we deliver today content that was not available to our fans until now. We have, for example, a special team of 4 people that live in Benfica campus and are there close to the players, because in fact what people want to see is their heroes, their players. So we changed the mentality. Now, the bad news is that in terms of monetizing this experience, we didn't succeed in terms of reaching the figures that we are expecting. And in fact, not us nor anyone else. I think that we are all learning internationally at national level, we are all learning what can be done in terms of OTT from the club's side. And I think that we will change the model. Today the model is based on the users will pay a monthly fee, a low monthly fee, in order to have access to this kind of content. Most probably we will have to go on putting more content that is, let's say, sponsor with some kind of advertisement in order to get the right amount of money we need to support the investment.
We're talking about match day experiences. I've been through that immersive match day experience in NBA twice, once in Los Angeles and once in Atlanta, and you lived in the United States as well. So what can we learn from the American way of doing things, from the American way of show, of turning in a show only a basketball game or a football game? What did you learn from the time, from the years you lived in the United States, Tiago?
Good question. It has been a wave of different moments, experiences, different sports, and once you are embedded in that reality, you absorb all of those moments, and then when you are in charge, you kind of execute based on those learning experiences. So, to answer your question, I think the game is much more than the 90 minutes, right? So I think teams have to think outside of the box. They need to think that this is really an entertainment moment for everyone really involved, not only the players, but the fans. Not only the fans, but the corporate. Not only the corporate, but the media. So I think all of those moments, when you translate to this venue, this moment of the game, you have to think outside of the box. What else can you do? Can you do a party? Can you do a barbecue? Can you do a show? Can you, execute something with a corporate partner that is exciting to the fans? So if you had the experience of watching an NBA game, every single minute is a minute of excitement. Something is on. Here, I'm going to give you a very maybe out of the box example, but every one of us discuss the VAR. What if during the VAR there's something else going on? What if us looking at what the camera is showing? Is there anything else that excites us besides watching that play? And I think all of those moments is us thinking outside the box to ask ourselves, what do they want to see? What do they want to feel? And our jobs is really understanding every single moment, every single game, asking ourselves, what do they want to watch? What do they want to see? What do they want to feel? And I think if you ask that, you start seeing some answers. I think they want to be entertained. They want, clarity. They want security. They want enthusiasm. They want credibility. They want a show. They want prizes. They want something new. So I think, I can give you multiple examples, but I think from a strategic point of view is really challenge ourselves, and the whole industry really challenge ourselves and think, what do they want? not what we want, right?
That's perfect. Guilherme, in a Portuguese point of view, this was a very successful season for Estoril. Under 23, Liga Pro. How can we deal with this, trying to project a long period for stay in the first division? For sure, you want to be in the first division for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. How can you prepare the structure and how can you manage that? And the expectations of the fans as well.
Okay, I'm sorry to break the protocol again, but just to add something to what you're saying. I had until a month ago an American president in Estoril. The first time that he came, we still had audiences in the stadiums. The idea of fans coming to the stadiums 15 minutes before the game and leaving the game 2 minutes after the game ended was like mind-blowing for him. His typical match day experience started at 10 in the morning, going to the stadium surroundings, having barbecue, being in, listening to music, staying with his friends, and then go to the game. And of course, with a more, let's say, user-friendly experience inside the stadium. But it starts a lot earlier, with a lot of money spending in merchandisings and foods and everything around the field. So it's interesting to see also that difference. It's been, in fact, a great year for us. I think that the expectations are high. It's also what we've been discussing. It's not the work of this season. It's a work of more than one season. In fact, Estoril was in the first division for 6 years straight, and this is the third year of second division. And so I think that it's a work that has been ongoing, and we tried, as said, I think we tried to keep in the second division the same principles and the same organization that we had in the first division. The expectations are high, I know, but I think that the preparation that we had gives us the confidence to reach this level, that we know that it's going to be very challenging, but also, and I think this is important for people to know, because sometimes it's not really clear the difference. Of course, as we know, TV rights, it's one of the main incomes for clubs. When in the first division, in the relegation moment, you know that you will receive in TV rights 6 times less than you received in the first division, and that's huge. And so that's an adaptation that you need to have, and a competitive process, because differently from the first league and the second league, the difference in incomes from TV rights from the first to the last club is not that much, and so the level of competitiveness is really high. I think if you can, as we tried, to keep a level of organization, of management, of professional management, and succeed in this very competitive environment, I think that you can look to the future with some trust.
Gents, we have 10 minutes to go. So let's go for the final questions, and I have $1 million question for you. It will be the last one. You told recently, Domingos, that there is yet a long way to walk for Benfica. What can we really expect from the club, from Benfica as a player, not only in the football pitch, but in the football industry in the next years?
Well, I think that we have good challenges in front of us. I think that just before talking about Benfica, I think that, as I mentioned before, as in this industry, clubs should work much more together. I think that for different reasons, for personality challenges, let's say, as challenges, the clubs have always had a lot of difficulties in working together. And I think that after these COVID phases where we all suffered, some suffered a lot, but I think all clubs suffered, I think that we have to look forward and think, what should we do together? How should we defend ourselves? How can we progress in terms of protecting all the investments that are done in this industry? So I would say that I expect that in the coming months to have more clubs that can work together, not only in these working groups in the league or together with the Portuguese Federation, but among clubs. In terms of Benfica, I think that the challenges we have are mostly, I would say, three. One is coming back to the international project. We had worked together with the McKinsey Group, and we said in 2014, 2015, we said it's very difficult to continue our revenue increase because we don't see new areas where we can work together. And they mentioned 2 or 3 different projects that we could do together, but one was going abroad. Going abroad, a little bit, we didn't call them multi-clubs structure. I call it a constellation of clubs. Because I think that there are areas that you can work together, but on the contrary, there are a lot of things that you should not try to force in those clubs. We study investments in China, not only buying clubs, but also with some kind of partnership. We establish some kind of partnerships. The same situation in the States. In the States, you have a lot of people playing football, and the parents are ready to spend much more money than in Europe in terms of putting their kids playing soccer, like they mentioned. We had a very interesting project in UK, so there's a lot of things that we can do international. The purpose is, of course, to spread the brand, but also to collect more money in order to invest in our team. The second one is digital, everything around digital. I think that the pandemic gave us an opportunity to invest more and to see the results in terms of digital. It's not only about users, but it's also about restructuring our own process, the way we can do things much more efficient. And the third one is around football. We have already a lot of things doing in football. I think that, for example, we were working on data analytics for football. I think there's a lot of things that we can do more from, let's say, the tech side to the technical team.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are you prepared to sign the naming agreement for the stadium? And are the Benfica fans ready for that change?
I think that Estádio da Luz will be always Estádio da Luz.
At least for the fans.
For the fans. I think that if you sign an agreement for a naming, it's not just about the brand recognition. Mm-hmm. Okay, you see here brand. We had discussions with this brand, and it's much more about activation rather than just a brand exposure. Most of the brands, they don't need more brand exposure. What they need is to gain access to our fans on a specific way. So it's not so much important about will it be called X stadium, it's about how can you support their business in terms of generating more money for your partners.
Tiago, we have an audience of students, and mainly students online, I guess. How can they face the challenge of the market? If they want to study sports management, if they want to become sports managers, how can they face the market nowadays with the pandemics, after the pandemics?
Well, good question. I think it takes a lot of tenacity, as I've mentioned before. It takes a lot of never take a no for an answer. Just keep challenge yourself. Keep finding this avenue that is in front of you, and sometimes you have to turn left, and other times you have to turn right, but you know where you're heading. Set your goals. Be very objective on how you translate those goals into action, and just keep grinding. Just keep grinding every single day, because success is just a multitude of moments. And I think I was in their shoes not so long ago, and just challenge yourself by going out and see the world. Just think outside of your neighborhood, think outside of your country. Just just go and experience, talk with people, learn new languages, interact, show yourself, never take no, as I mentioned, for an answer, and just apply your work and the things you have learned, and you'll get it there.
Guilherme, Portugal exports players and technical managers. Are we ready to export Tiago Lopes and Tiago Pinto in the second and the third and the fourth edition with our quality of management?
For sure. I mean, if we do it in other areas of business in Portugal with great success, I would say that for sure also in sport. I think that I was listening also to Tiago, and I think passion is key. And I think that we have a lot in Portugal. I think we love football. I think that that's clear every day. If we open any newspaper or any TV program, you see the passion in people, and so I think that's really important for a student. And so if then we become people that have some possibilities in the industry. I think that if we can do it in Portugal in such a, and I do think that it's a competitive environment, because as Domingos was saying in the beginning of our conversation, it's a challenging space if we want to compete with bigger clubs in Europe. But I think that if we can do it here, I'm pretty sure that we can do it everywhere. So yeah, for sure.
Domingos, you've been working very hard in Benfica since 2004. We're in 2021. You have a project in Benfica till 2024. I've been listening something. Of course, we talk about this with lots of people connected to sports. What's next?
After Benfica?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question.
I'm a 60 years old man, okay?
Huh?
So
that's experience.
But no, I don't. To be very honest, I don't have any plans.
You heard something as well.
I don't have any plans after Benfica. I see a lot of good opportunities, and because I think that we are finishing, I just forgot in the beginning of the session to congratulate Guilherme for his fantastic performance in Estoril. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Domingos, Tiago, Guilherme, and for the students who are with us online or here in Nova ASB. Thank you very much for the invitation. Always dream, and for sure your dreams will come true. My name is Rui Almeida. Thank you very much. Be safe and take care.